Did you see Nancy Pelosi defend insider trading?
I was just about to ask.
What'd you say? I don't know, guys. I'm doing great at it. You guys should try it.
A bunch of people were freaking out about it. I think it was Crystal and Sagar were doing. I didn't watch it, but I did see the headline that she apparently.
Oh, it's incredible! You have to watch it. It's like
she's just bypassing all the laws to make hella cash.
She looks so.
The reason that this idea to put a ban on stock trading for members of Congress is even a thing is because of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she is rightfully criticized because she makes, I think, $174,000 a year, yet she has a net worth of approximately $413 million. In 2024, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, this was a fascinating statistic to me, grew 70% in 1 year in 2020.
How does a public servant earning a government salary build a family fortune that rivals some of the savviest investors on Wall Street? For decades, Nancy Pelosi has carefully maintained a strong public image, presenting herself as a skilled legislator, a trailblazer, and a dedicated defender of American democracy. But critics, including voices like Joe Rogan, have continued to question whether there's more beneath that polished surface. They point to concerns about significant wealth, well-timed stock trades, and patterns that have led many to wonder how fair the system really is. This isn't just about politics. It's about power, money, and a system that can sometimes feel like it benefits a select few at the expense of everyone else.
She's older than Biden. Like, chill out. Go on a vacation.
The things he says are so inappropriate for a president of the United States. The comments he makes about women.
Also, why are you still doing it? You're older than Biden.
You're asking me about the appropriateness of the actions of this president? So completely inappropriate in so many ways. It's almost a given.
Not even about the money. It's about access, the power.
He comes in with doggy-doo on his shoes, and everybody who works with him has that on their shoes, too.
The people who carry your bags and toady after.
It all starts with the numbers. And at first glance, the numbers just don't seem to line up. As Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi earned a salary of around $223,500 a year. It's a solid income, no doubt, but it's far from the level you'd expect behind a massive family fortune. Estimates of their net worth have climbed past $100 million, with some reports suggesting it could reach $200 million or even higher. That's not the kind of wealth most people build by simply saving a government paycheck. It points more towards success in the market, with timing that seems almost uncanny. In 2021, reports showed her husband's stock portfolio grew by an eye-catching 69%, a return that didn't just beat the market, it stood far above it. To put that into perspective, their investments outperformed many well-known hedge funds and even surpassed the returns of billionaire investor Warren Buffett during that period. It naturally raises a bigger question that continues to follow her legacy. Is it remarkable financial skill, an extraordinary run of luck, or something else that sets these results apart?
In June of 1996, Nancy Pelosi spoke on the House floor. She urged her colleagues at the time to fight against the status quo trade policies that had contributed to America's trade deficit with China. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said, "How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit? How many jobs have to be lost for the American workers? How much dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, 'I will not endorse the status quo'?" Those are the words of Nancy Pelosi in 1996.
To understand the money, you have to look at the person making the trades. Her husband, Paul Pelosi. He isn't just a casual investor. He's a seasoned professional who runs a venture capital and investment firm. Even so, his success has consistently drawn attention, with trades that seem to land at just the right moment and stocks that go on to perform strongly. This pattern has sparked ongoing discussion, with some viewing it as the result of experience and sharp instincts, while others question whether his position brings added advantages, given his wife's role and access to high-level briefings, policy discussions, and meetings that can influence entire industries.
Do you see the Nancy Pelosi thing? The new one?
She was being interviewed and then was like, I didn't want to talk about that.
Anderson Cooper. You put that on. Anderson Cooper, he sneaks it in. She's like, I came here to talk about the anniversary of Medicaid. Like, she cares about Medicaid. She's worth an estimated $400 million now.
How? What's the salary? $70,000 a year.
170 grand a year, something like that. 200 grand a year.
People on this, he doesn't want to see people like Nancy Pelosi enriching themselves off of public service and ripping off their constituents in the process. As for the mechanics of the legislation and how it will move forward, the White House continues to be in discussions with our...
The amount of stock trading that's done by members of Congress, the amount of fucking money that they make when they know decisions that are going to be signed and passed. They know laws that are going to be put into place. They know, like there was one recently that we're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the amount of money she invested in Tesla right before Biden signed this EV bill, electric vehicle bill. It's like 1.2 million. Find out faster.
The accusations reached a boiling point with one high-profile trade that many critics pointed to as a major example. In the summer of 2022, just weeks before Congress was set to vote on the CHIPS Act, a bill aimed at boosting the semiconductor industry with over $50 billion in support, Paul Pelosi exercised call options to purchase up to $5 million worth of stock in NVIDIA, one of the world's leading chip makers and a company expected to benefit from the legislation. The timing raised eyebrows and quickly sparked strong reactions from across the political spectrum. Amid growing public pressure, he later sold the shares at a loss, a move seen as an attempt to ease the controversy, though the debate didn't fade. For many observers, it became a widely discussed example of concerns around stock trading and political access. And for critics, the NVIDIA trade wasn't an isolated case, but part of a broader pattern they questioned. They also pointed to other investments, such as activity around major tech companies, like purchasing options in Alphabet ahead of key antitrust discussions, and investing in Activision Blizzard around the time Microsoft announced plans to acquire the company, a deal subject to government review. These instances have continued to fuel an ongoing conversation about timing, transparency, and the relationship between public roles and financial activity.
Agreements. Here, let's watch this because it's so funny.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted. And
Then came what many called the green gold rush. As the Biden administration prepared massive infrastructure and climate initiatives, including big incentives for electric vehicles, the Pelosis were already positioned, investing over $1 million in Tesla. Time and again, their portfolio seemed to anticipate government moves, subsidies, antitrust actions, or major contracts, growing in step with the legislative calendar in a pattern too consistent to ignore. When the media finally confronted Pelosi, her responses only added fuel to the fire. At a now famous press conference, she dismissed concerns about conflicts of interest, saying, "We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate," a soundbite that went viral and reinforced her image as out of touch. Later, when asked if her husband ever traded based on her information, she replied curtly, "No, absolutely not," pushing the microphone away. A defensive reaction that suggested the mask of invincibility was starting to slip.
If you talked with the president of his position on the stock trading ban bill before Congress, he obviously had pretty loaded comments about Senator Hawley. There's some reporting that they've since spoken. What is his position on the current status of that bill?
The president has spoken to Senator Hawley, who called him, and the president took that call. As the president said in the Roosevelt Room yesterday, conceptually, he of course supports the idea of ensuring that members of Congress and United States senators who are here for public service cannot...
This apparent hypocrisy isn't new. It stretches back decades. In 1996, a younger Nancy Pelosi stood on the House floor denouncing China's trade practices, asking how many American jobs would be lost before action was taken. She presented herself as a populist, fighting for everyday workers against powerful corporations. But over the years, that same politician became a symbol of elite enrichment, with her family profiting from the very megacorporations she once criticized. For many, this shift from critic to beneficiary feels like the ultimate betrayal of her political roots. Critics argue this gap between words and actions extends beyond finances. During the height of the pandemic, while millions were losing jobs and small businesses struggled under lockdowns, Pelosi appeared on a late-night show from her San Francisco home. In a moment widely remembered, she proudly displayed a commercial-grade freezer stocked with $1.13 a pint luxury ice cream. The "Let Them Eat Gelato" clip became a lasting symbol of a political class seemingly disconnected from, and even flaunting, the hardships faced by ordinary Americans.
Jewel stocks.
Well, insider trading is against the law.
Yeah.
How is that not insider trading?
Right.
If you know that someone's going to sign a bill and that bill is going to be a massive boost to the electrical vehicle industry, just as an example, and you know that bill's going to be signed, so right before that bill's signed, you buy a fuckload of stock in electrical vehicles, and then the next day, or whenever it was, that bill gets passed, and then that stock goes up, and you make a shit ton of money.
This focus on spectacle over substance became a pattern. When she tore up President Trump's State of the Union address on live television, supporters hailed it as a bold statement, but critics saw a childish tantrum, a piece of political theater meant to rally her base without achieving anything real. Similarly, when she and other Democratic leaders knelt in the Capitol wearing kente cloths, many viewed it not as genuine solidarity, but as a staged photo op, turning a serious issue into a political branding exercise. Everything seemed calculated for optics. Perhaps most striking, however, was her role as gatekeeper of the political system. For years, bipartisan calls urged a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks, a reform supported by most Americans. Yet under her speakership, the legislation stalled, repeatedly delayed, and was buried in committee. This inaction created the perception that she wasn't just a participant in a flawed system, but the referee who refused to enforce the rules, protecting a structure that allows elected officials to profit while in office.
In 2024, and her portfolio outperformed every single large hedge fund in that same year, and even more than doubled the returns of Warren Buffett's Berkshire. Years later, Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China. In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future
so transparent, and it's right in front of your face, like the Nancy Pelosi situation. She's never made more than $175,000 a year. She's worth $100 and something million. Did you ever see the one where they confronted her about being able to insider trade? You never saw it?
No.
It's wild.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you've received from you?
No, absolutely not.
Pushes the mic away.
Her long hold on power also created a generational divide within her own party. While she presented herself as a forward-thinking progressive, many younger, more activist Democrats saw her as a symbol of the old establishment, a leader more focused on protecting her own position than making room for fresh voices and new ideas. Her style of leadership appeared less about mentorship and more about control, keeping the levers of power in the hands of a small, entrenched circle of insiders who knew how the game was played. She didn't pass the torch, she clutched it tightly, almost possessively. Ultimately, Nancy Pelosi represents more than just herself. She has become a symbol of a system that many see as fundamentally broken. While she isn't the only politician whose family trades stocks, the scale of her family's wealth combined with her powerful role makes her one of the clearest examples of how public service and personal profit can dangerously intertwine, eroding trust in Washington at its core.
Watching the panic in her face, realizing that Trump is now president, and they're talking about literally going after her for insider trading, and the undeniable evidence that they have had better results on the stock market than literally anyone ever.
Yeah.
And they have access to information about laws that are going to be passed.
Yeah.
If that's not insider trading.
As she steps down from the height of power, her supporters will highlight her legislative accomplishments and her place as a historic female leader. Yet for millions of Americans and critics like Joe Rogan who amplified their concerns, her legacy is overshadowed by questions of wealth and Wall Street connections. The story many will remember isn't just of a pioneering public servant, but of a political dynasty that seemed to turn access and inside information into extraordinary financial gain. The bigger question goes beyond her alone. How can a democracy thrive when citizens feel their leaders are serving themselves instead of the public? History may record the official version, but for many, the lasting image will be of a powerful figure skillfully dodging tough questions about wealth that seems impossible to explain.